Hi, Kelly from the Self Love Sisters.
Hi, Lisa from the Self Love Sisters.
Now, I was just talking to you earlier, and we were talking about ICOs and how about someone had said that ICOs, 99% of them were scams, and then he backtracked and said, well, no, that's not true, because there's a few different reasons why they didn't go through. So can you just tell me what he said about the reasons that...
So what he kind of said, and this is a professor who teaches at the University of Nicosia, he said that they kind of fall into 3 or 4 categories. And the first category being that, yes, they were just outright, what are they called? Con men. What's the long word for con?
I don't know. I was thinking condominium. But no.
Confidence. Yeah. They build your confidence in them. They're confidence men. And they take your money. So they didn't have any good intentions. Then there were people with good intentions but without the skill set. And another thing that was backing this was that blockchain was brand new. It had come to the forefront, even though blockchain has been around for 10 years. And people were jumping on that bandwagon. And this wasn't an example that he gave, but it was an example that came to mind for me, which was Kodak. So Kodak added blockchain to their something or other, and their shares skyrocketed for a short time. So you had people throwing the word blockchain around, putting an ICO to it, and without having that understanding and the knowledge that goes with that, and potentially not even having an understanding of business, how a business works. Then the final pool of people were people who had the knowledge, and they were legitimate ICOs. But what we were talking about is how the difference between the ICO space, which was at the time unregulated and didn't have any structure to it, and comparing that to the venture capital space or the VC space, where when you're going and getting venture capital, you've got people with a vested interest in your project, and they're going to make sure that you are accountable. In the ICO space, there wasn't any of that. I mean, there are a lot of advisors, there are a lot of marketers, there are a lot of social media influencers. All that doesn't necessarily equate to business acumen and good governance. So there was none of the necessary structure in place, which is why a lot of them failed. And in saying that, not all of them failed. So with a good structure, with good accountability, with good governance, an ICO can certainly succeed if it is a good idea with good foundation and a legitimate application for the blockchain technology.
Yeah. Exactly. So you were also saying, though, that about the language around ICOs.
Yeah, so the question that was actually raised was, are all 99% of ICOs a scam? And the answer to that is simply no, like those 3 pools of people that we discussed. But that mentality is also back prior to June of this year. So since then, there have been regulations come in. There have been KYC regulations come in. There have been a lot of people who have been burnt. So there's been a drop-off, but there's also been lots of learning. And so people are coming, investors, people who are contributing to ICOs should have learned from previous lessons, and they should be asking better questions. And what we're seeing is less ICOs, and we should be seeing high quality ICOs from a project perspective, because they should have learned lessons from what has gone before. From a contributor's perspective, there should be better questions asked, more accountability required. And also what we've seen in the space is, what did I read the other day? New smart contracts are being developed where if the project doesn't reach its soft cap or doesn't meet the criteria, then within that smart contract the funds would be instantly returned.
Yep.
So there have been developments like that, and those are the things that you should be looking for when you're looking at a project. Absolutely don't believe the hype. We did a video a few weeks ago about the 3 Ps as a starting point for evaluating an ICO, and then you do need to dig deeper and ask some really good quality questions when you are looking at the ICO. So,
and in saying that, a lot of the ICOs have social channels where you can ask those questions and get them answered.
Absolutely, yeah. So you're going to look at those social channels, you're going to connect into those social channels, and you're going to ask the questions. Like, a lot, you know, as a human nature, and as we've been conditioned to accept information, like from that teacher-student perspective. But really, in this age, you really do need to become a really good learner, and you need to be asking those questions and expecting accountability from those in authority. So you need to be your own authority, making sure that they're answering your questions in a way that satisfies you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is great information, because I actually read an article the other day about scams and everything's a scam. And so you do definitely still get those people. But I think because we've come so far, we really need to even disregard that person's opinion and form an opinion for ourselves.
Yeah. And that's the challenging thing. We haven't... I mean, my kids certainly taught critical thinking in schools today, but us as adults weren't taught that in our schooling necessarily. Like, you know, as you go on to university, those skills are required, but those are skills that we need from childhood, really, in my opinion. So asking those quality questions, it comes back to that, and we'll probably do another post about what questions you need to be asking.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
So that, and not as just a starting guide, so that you can ask these questions to start with, but then develop your own set of questions that you need to have answered for you, so that you become your own authority. Like, we're here to help you create those baby steps, but you need to develop that for yourself as we move into this space.
Well, thank you very much, Kelly. That was
are
very
most welcome.
informative. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Ka kite anō.